It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. Unconventional Ag is the industry source to discover how to differentiate products and processes and take advantage of emerging markets related to specialty oilseeds, grains, and their byproducts. Happening in Minneapolis, November 29th and 30th, 2022, this conference is a newly refocused event and news platform featuring innovative and emerging value-added opportunities for farmers, grain handlers, processors, food marketers, startups, equipment, and technology providers, and more. This is the 8th annual conference, previously titled the Organic and Non-GMO Forum. It's expanding to meet industry needs. For more information and to register, visit unconventionalag.com. That's unconventionalag.com. We're here today at FIRA USA in Fresno, California, and I want to introduce you to Brendan Black, who has also been on Ag Spotlight before, and he's here. This is his home area and where he goes to school. And so why did you come out to the show?
Well, actually, it was because of you. You invited me out to this show, so I had the opportunity to come out here and get a media pass to go around and interview people. But just like you were doing right now, I'm looking for networking opportunities and more potential interviews for my own podcast, Talk Ag to Me, as well as just to learn some new things about what's going on in the tech world so I can bring it back and teach other people about it.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Talk Ag to Me, like I mentioned. It's an agriculture education-based podcast, entirely intent on connecting the agriculture industry and the general public, kind of bridging that communication gap, helping them understand a lot of the misconceptions that are out there, and bringing kind of more modern look to agriculture, so that way they think that we're more than just a farmer wearing overalls and a pitchfork kind of thing.
Right, that's great. And so since you've been here at the show, what have you been learning, and what are some of the cool takeaways?
I've been learning that there's a lot more to ag robotics than I initially thought, which I'm pretty dialed into the ag technology world, but it's just so advanced and it's developing so quickly that it's so hard to keep up with everything. There's a lot of big challenges facing technology right now, and a lot of issues that technology can solve. The problem right now is just that it's not advancing fast enough to solve some of those issues, and it's advancing too fast to solve other issues. So it's kind of like finding that balancing act of using technology appropriately while still making it profitable for the farmer. Like one of the conversations that was had today is the balance of, is it making yield or is it saving money, and whether or not those products are usable for the farmer or if they're going to be usable, 5 or 10 years down the road. So it's been really interesting to see not only what new innovations are coming out, but the kind of the thought process going into designing these new technologies and how they're going to be used in the industry, not just today, but for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely. And you have some interesting projects in the works. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So this is partially going into my master's project for my master's degree at school, but also a larger scale project that you're actually helping out with that is at the moment called the California Ag Literacy Initiative. It's going to go through some changes, probably go through a name change at some point. But the very basic premise is bringing together ag industry people, ag literacy people, ag education people, and general public people to talk about better ways to have conversations between the ag industry and the general public. Similar to how my podcasts serves as a bridge of communication between those groups. I think that we should all kind of work together to find better ways to have those conversations and more appropriately distribute that information. So the main goals of the team are collaboration, communication, and action. And so collaboration is more so based on bringing together the people already in the industry that have the ideas and helping them actually communicate with each other, kind of building a network of sorts between ag communicators and ag educators and the ag industry. And then the communication is obviously with the public, actually presenting our message to them, and the action is coming together in the form of whether it be conferences or just simple meetings or communication through some kind of network. There's been talks about potentially starting a website, and then you and I have been talking about the potential of creating a kind of a roundtable event similar to what you've done in the past on your show that would bring together consumers and producers to discuss those issues and clear up those misconceptions. So it's very much in its infancy. I'm going through research phases right now, kind of identifying the key issues we want to cover. But I think large scale and long term, it could potentially grow into something much more impactful on the relationship between the producer and the consumer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm impressed at how far you've been and how much research you've done. Looking forward to our meetings coming up, and good job. And thank you so much for joining me right now.
Yeah, thank you. I always appreciate talking to you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. This is a Carbon Robotics laser weeder, the first and only laser weeding machine. It uses a combination of computer vision through cameras, AI, and deep learning to spot weeds live in real time. And then we use extremely high-powered lasers to burn the weeds out of farmer fields. So this machine here is an example of our autonomous version, and then the commercial version is a 3-row, so 3 times the size, pull behind tractor implement that gets its power from the tractor PTO. We've been selling these for quite some time now. They've been selling really well. People seem to like them, very productive, doing great. And we're really excited for what we've been able to do working with growers. These machines work primarily on vegetable crops. So we're talking about salad crops, broccolis, cauliflowers, lettuce, spinach, that kind of thing, onions, carrots, And so basically anything that we can drive over and any weeds that we can see, we can shoot. People like them for being able to plant really dense because we can get in between anything. You can see some videos on our website of some weeding in really dense spinaches and things like that. And Carbon Robotics laser weeder.
Is Colt, Stout, Farmwise, all cut the weeds out with the same principle. We use blades behind the machine to articulate around the plant. So they open, they close, they cut, they open, they close, they cut. So with the Colt machine, Colt Crest, I introduced Kim, introduced Daniel. These are our German partners that you will have just come from the Nio machine, where you will have seen the Colt fingers or the weeders on that machine as well. So that was a collaboration between the 3 companies to make sure that we were getting the best technologies on the platforms that customers want. All right, so what you just saw coming out of that machine is similar to what you're going to see here. This is a bigger platform, standard tractor mount platform. So for the growers that have high acres that are doing production, these types of machines are what they're using today. So we've got all these machines are being sold all over the United States, but you'll see them up and down the coast and in Arizona working every single day. Daniel, will you do me a favor and lift that hood up? And while he's doing that, my name is Nick Kopis, and I'm with a company called Keithley Williams. We are primarily a seed company. I run the equipment division. What we do is try to marry the best technologies in the industry together so we can bring solutions to the growers. Let me stand out of your way here. And by bringing the technologies to the growers, what we want to do is have the highest benefit values for them. That does one thing for my company: it sells more seed. They lead the way, and I just pick up the back end of it and bring the stuff out to the growers and try to make them happy. So Colt has engineered this specific piece of equipment, and underneath there, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see that there's 2 bars. We've got the main toolbar in the front with a rear toolbar, and that rear toolbar shifts side to side. It goes left to right. So when the camera system's picking up the plant line, in that plant line, it's following the plant line. So if you do not have a straight plant line, that machine's going to move back and forth to make sure that the blades are centered over the plant. That way we eliminate being able to cut plants out instead of weeds out. I think that's good. On this model that you see here, and this is, I'm going to set this down. On this model here, we've got the cab camera and computer system mounted in the rear. So that way, if you follow behind it, we'll be able to see what's going on inside or under the hood. This traditionally would be put into the cab. So the operator has the ability to make changes on the fly. If he wants to position the knives a little more forward, a little more to the rear, he thinks he's getting too close to the plant, he has the ability to control that. He can also move the machine left and right from there. So this device gives him complete control in the cab, but for today's demo, we just have it mounted in the rear so everybody kind of can get a visual of what's going on as the machine is moving. So I think with that being said, is there any questions before we get started? All right, Kim? So the camera system is now finding the plants, it's identifying them, and centering itself over the line. Daniel's probably going to make a little bit of depth control as we go because the beds are wet, and we sink a little bit in certain areas. This field is full of a lot of grass, which is not traditional to most people's fields, but it's going to cut that grass out nonetheless. As you can see, the blades are opening and closing around the plant line, just like you saw with the Nile machine.
Hi, I'm here today with Praveen Penmetsa from Monarch Tractor, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what they do and why they're here at FIRA.
Hi, I'm Praveen Penmetsa. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Monarch Tractor. At Monarch Tractor, we are bridging the gap between farm sustainability and farm profitability. So with our all-electric autonomous tractor, this really allows farmers to decrease the emissions on the farm, but also be more profitable by saving money on diesel and also being more efficient with the labor that they use. And that's what we are doing here at Monarch Tractor. And what we have done is built a 40 to 60 horsepower machine that can be used by any small farmer the world over. Our first market is vineyards and orchards, and we have signed up some of the largest growers in California and the western region of North America that we are delivering tractors to later this year in 2022. So we've been involved with FIRA since our very beginning. So we've actually done some of the virtual events during COVID, where we did the event in France. And FIRA is actually a great coalition of existing equipment companies, startups, right, that are also doing a lot of robotics, and also companies like ours, which are already out there with our machines. And it really brings the growers, the technology people, and the existing equipment and implement companies and the data companies all together at one single show. So we are thrilled to be here and looking forward to being more engaged in these kind of events all over the world. Yeah. We live in a very supply constrained world these days, number one, right? What that means for growers is growers are facing huge amount of challenges on the inputs that they have, right? They're all trying to be even more deliberate and careful with the amount of chemicals, water, and inputs that they're putting into the farm, number one. Number two is equipment has been hard to come by. So it's been quite challenging for the growers in this environment to actually conduct operations. But the great thing about where we are and how we are working with them is to showcase what technology can do for them in reducing those input costs, and also the fact that we are a new equipment company that they can place an order today and get tractors, in the early part of next year, is a huge benefit to the farmers. And farmers definitely want to see and try. And I think if you ask me about a challenge, I wish I had more demo tractors to do more demos with farmers around the country here. One of the advantages we have is we're supported by some very large ag equipment companies. and some very large manufacturing companies as well. Case New Holland, our strategic partner and an investor in Monarch Tractor, right, has been supporting us on the supply chain side. So we have the mass of Case New Holland behind us. We also have Foxconn, one of the largest contract manufacturing companies in the world, right? They are the highest and the largest employer of people on the planet. So the fact that they're building our tractor in Ohio means that we can leverage their relationships to get the supply chain components that we need and keep manufacturing tractors so that we can get them out to farmers' hands as soon as possible. So again, I encourage everybody to check out our site, monarchtractor.com. And also, by the way, we're taking reservations on our site, so do check us out. And also, there's incentive programs from the states and federal governments, including the USDA, that will make our tractor even more easier at a lower cost for you to get your hands on one of our tractors.
Find him, and then continue to follow him. So it'll walk onto him, it'll identify him, and if I walk in front of it, it will still stay on him. It'll stop for him, same way it does every time. And as he walks around, it'll follow him around like a little puppy dog. Some people ask, all right, what is that, Chrissy? Have you been on a tractor and you have to come up to a gate, you gotta hop off the tractor, walk through the gate, hop back on the tractor, you driving? You now do that, but instead, just get off the tractor, walk it on through, close the gate on the back side, and then send it on its way to continue its operations. Additionally, if you're doing any sort of turning out the field, you have different implements you want to carry out. Throw them in our front. You'll see it right in the front bed there. That's where we strap down all our tools. There are several different key points for safety factors. So you want to make sure that your cooler is nice and strapped tight, and then continue on its way. Any other questions?
And you can manually drive it as well.
Great question. The battery runs on its own for no time. Great question for everybody. Personal electricity. So depending on your implement, operation, environment, just like a diesel tractor, it varies. But we say around average 10 hours. You can get up to 14 under 16 conditions. If you're looking at heavy ground engagement, heavy load on the back, maybe steep slope, you're looking at closer to 6 to 8. Great question. So for us, charging was important because we understand not everybody has the infrastructure in place to have an electric vehicle out on their farm right now. But what most farmers we talk to do have is an 80 amp, 80 amp in their barn. So we have a standard J1772 charger. You can plug it into that barn location, and you can charge the tractor in around 4 to 5 hours.
I don't usually use a mic, and my voice from yesterday talking to everybody is pretty tired. I am the CEO of 13 Design, which I no longer am. I just sold. I'm now the CEO of Amos Power. 13 Design was a product development team that started out putting together a fully electric, fully autonomous tractor, and is now branched off into Amos Power. Amos Power is about an 80 horsepower. Each left track, right track is driven by its own independent motor. That's a 40 horsepower motor. And the PTO is also a 40 horsepower motor. We use 3 independent motors for our drive system. Things to know about it, we've been working on this for about 2 years. We have 2 different versions, even though about 95% of the parts are the same. This version is a 60-inch row spacing. We can set it up for different widths, whether it be 80-inch vegetable beds or whether it be 60-inch or 48. Our narrowest unit is more of a vineyard tractor. We lower the center of gravity about 150 millimeters down, and we narrow it down to a 1.25 meters, or 47.5 inches. And as far as that, I want to introduce Rhett Childrock. He is actually a minority owner as well as a supplier. He's been a great pad. He manages all of our software through Red Shield Electronics. And the vehicle has RTK positioning, but it also has stereo optics to do obstacle detection as well as enhance the stereo or the drive when we lose our RTK. Under canopies in the orchards or whether we are in a vineyard that's very heavily covered with canopy. Other thoughts?
Yeah, so there's a tablet interface so we can see where it's going, plus the remote control for manually driving it. It does, on the front of it, have a stereo camera plus radar that's doing obstacle detection, which means everyone has to move out of the way, or we're just going to see it sit here and say there's an obstacle in front of it. So if we could, would you like to start the demo now?
I'll start the demo. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Here we go.
All right. Just hit the start button. It's clear.
Please stay clear. And again, as it goes, you can circle in and watch it go, but you don't want people out in front of it. It will stop repeatedly. It's going to move to the start point, set its hitch to where it needs the hitch to be placed, and then start going down the road. What you're hearing is cooling fans. Everything's liquid cooled, and
Without
each and every motor has its own independent cooling system. Travel speeds can exceed 5 miles per hour. Actually, doing this at about 2.5.
Brad Abraham. I am our field coordinator. This right here is Curtis Gardner. He is one of our co-founders. And this machine right here is our machine. We are Verdant Robotics, and what we do is we use machine learning to detect crop from weeds, and we spray the weeds out in organic crops, and instead of having hand crews come in and remove them by hand. The same technology that we're using to spray weeds, we could take that technology, we could use it in many different ways, we could move it in different directions. So if we're spraying weeds, we could also shift that model around, and we could lay out some minute fertility on top of plants, or we could do plant growth hormones, we could do insecticides, we could do fungicides, you name it. We kind of do the same thing across the board. What makes this machine unique is our application type. A lot of the other machines you'll see out here, they're either using lasers or e-tools or things like that to remove weeds. We are more on the biological side of things. We think that spraying the organic chemical down does a very good job. We're spraying with millimeter type accuracy. So when we're going through fields, I'll just kind of lay out a scenario for you because we run in a lot of carrots. When we're running in carrots come in anywhere from 40 to 55 carrots per bed foot. And so within those 55 carrots per bed foot, you also have 25% of the plant density in there is going to be your weeds. So what we need to do is we need to get between carrots and spray weeds out without killing the carrots. And so what our machine does is it goes in and it sprays those weeds without killing carrots. And so whenever we calibrate our machines in, we sit between anywhere from 2 millimeters to 4 millimeters of accuracy. So it's pretty cool. Christian, I don't see him over here. He's one of our operators. He was calibrating the machine the other day, and we had a bunch of ants running underneath our machine. We just had water in it at the time, but just to see how accurate it was, he was sitting up in the tractor and he was spraying ants on the screen with our sprayers across the whole thing as they were moving. So when we're going through fields, this thing is working at an accuracy level that we haven't really seen in agriculture since I've been in it in my 15 years in agriculture. So the value that we're creating for the growers really stands on the hand labor that we're removing out of the field for them. A lot of organic crops that are grown here in the valley, there's no herbicide that could go over the top and specifically kill just the weeds. And so a lot of the farmers in the areas are using hand labor to go out there and do that. So for our economy and for our industry to be able to grow and scale, there has to be a more efficient way of doing that. We don't have enough hand labor here in the United States to hand weed the fields we need to be able to scale organic farming in this state. So what we're doing is we're going in and we're mitigating that to start. And our goal is to eventually make a machine that is so good and so easy to work with that we'll be able to take the hand labor that is picking weeds in the field, pull them out of the field, put them in a better living condition, a better working condition inside of a tractor, and have them start running our robot for us in those fields. So that's the basic gist of what we do and how we do it and why we're driven in that direction. We all come from farming backgrounds. Curtis ran the largest tomato operation. I'm going to do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. As an operations manager for the world's largest tomato processing facility, so did harvesting and transplanting for roughly 50,000 acres. We got Sal over there. He's still with the company, so hopefully he has some questions for me. And just been in ag for a long time. Worked at a very large family farm, 12,000 acre diversified row crop farm. Went from 14 crops to 21 different crops, both organic and conventional production. And so a lot of fun, but it was there when I saw the changing of the regulations. So SB3 minimum wage going to $15, AB 1066, ag exemption of overtime going away is going to roughly double the budget for hand labor on the farm. And so kind of threw my hat in the ring and was lucky enough to found Verdant with some other folks. Most of the folks that we have come out of the self-driving car industry. So this is really just applying that self-driving car technology, but to agriculture. So it's phenomenal to get people from other industries in to help us solve the problem so we can keep the commercial viability of farming in California.
What's happening is that this machine is working. This machine, you can see this machine in France, in Italy, in Spain, in Czech Republic, soon in Hungary, and very soon in California. This machine is only working for the vine, and is doing intervine for the moment. So the tool is to do weeding only. We're working on many other tools like mowing, like trimming, like spraying as well. That should come very soon. But this is the machine now that we have. Maybe we can make you a small demonstration. So it has 4 batteries, 60 kilowatts. It runs between 8 to 12 hours a day, and it takes only 2 hours to charge with our supercharger. Many in Europe compare it to the Tesla, but we have a good after-sales service. So it's autonomous. This machine can be sent during if you consider the law and the European law, this you cannot leave the machine working alone. Okay, this machine has to be supervised, look after. One person can look after 1, 2, 3 machines at the same time. If you have a closed property, it's legal in Europe to leave this machine working alone, meaning that you can launch the machine, it does the job, you go do something else, you come back later. As you can see, it works autonomously. We have all the safety on this machine, human, animal detection.
So I just met this gentleman here at FIRA. His name is Matthew Barron, and I'm going to let him take over.
I just had my first podcast. Yeah. It's about New Mexico and the people that occupy New Mexico and all the interesting people. And the things that brought me there were the pandemic. And I stayed there for a long time, donating food to disabled veterans there, a program called Kitchen Angels. And so I was just there last Friday, and, gluten-free, homeless people, gluten-free, disabled people, they're my people, right? So I love that kind of small piece of charity. And so as the pandemic started happening, food banks started failing. Right. So not only were they not getting natural, healthy foods, but they were also getting like small supply, and then they didn't have the people to make up the meals. So all throughout the Southwest, it was just a train wreck when the pandemic hit. Right. And so I said, hello, let me give you, 1,000 pounds of some of my food. And in trade, put me on the website. You can think as a marketer, the value of that, right? Being on a food bank website. So I did maybe 17 food banks throughout California, Texas, New Mexico, Utah, right? The more desperate they became, the more useful I was, in a way, because I have a warehouse full of food.
Yeah.
I'm in nuts and dried fruits and seeds. I work with businesses, but also individuals who are looking for wholesale amounts, 25-pound boxes, pallets, all of it, right? And the more that they order or are interested in, the closer it gets to the farmer. So I can call the farmer, they can wrap it up for me, the processor. It's a great system of I can get as much as needed. So the first part is that it's in California. So I want to say about 50% of the products that I sell are actually in California. You're talking about pistachios. You're talking about almonds. You're talking about raisins. All those things are made here, right? So any chance for me to connect to a farmer in person and get them to see the kind of customers I have, those people that are between the supermarket and buying a container, those are my people. It's kind of easy to do one or the other. It's easy to buy a container, and it's easy to go to the market and buy like an 8-ounce bag. So I'm trying to fit in everything in between. And to connect those customers to farmers has been the greatest delight, right? When someone asks what farmers is coming from, I'm like, oh, well, let me give you their phone number and you can chat with them. Let's make a time where we can chat. The key is to treat farmers with respect for their time, especially. And so you don't let a customer just run through and ask them a bunch of questions, right? They can answer all the questions they want about, toxins or about spraying crops or whatever. Some customers really need that information, right? Others are just curious. Their mind goes 1,000 different directions. I heard this, I thought this. So it's nice to be that space in between. Right. It's really great. There's a lot of really interesting kind of farming techniques as the future kind of grabs hold. So there is, having certified organic crops in the middle of a field of inorganic crops. So they'll spray a circle like a donut. And in the middle, they have certified organic crops, and those they sell for double. Right? So they do that in Pennsylvania, where I'm from.
Okay.
Right? And then there's other ways, which is drone technology, so that the planes don't fly over non-organic certified land, right? But if you're in a plane with wind, it's a huge problem, right? For pecans in America, throughout the Midwest, they're just used to throwing planes over these things and spraying crops. Yeah. And they just miss all the time because they're traveling at 200 miles an hour. Right. So I love the new technology, right? I love the idea of drones, kind of capturing that space and bringing it down. I love the idea of kind of what's going on with automation. And I think that'll lead to more jobs, lead to more people doing what I do. I think that's really just important.
So you were recently on a podcast, and can you tell me about that podcast and where people can find it?
So it is New Mexico Biz Talk, or NM Biz Talk, with a Z, right? They like to really squeeze these Z's in there. So it's NM BIZ Talk. And I'm going to be the first guest with many to come afterwards. And I'm really excited about the food guests they have and food in New Mexico. I mean, they have a battle that's been raging against red peppers versus green peppers. Really? And it's green salsa and red salsa forever. And just feeding all those people, right? It's a landlocked state. So it's just surrounded by desert. And it's beautiful there. Enchanting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Look forward to hearing it. And thank you so much for joining me. And thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to today's Ag Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening. Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.